On today's episode of the Built by Anime podcast is the super mecha anime reactor, Jami. What an awesome conversation we had the opportunity to have. We talk about her early days going from the small farm town life to where she is now in Cali, massive anime YouTuber.
Johnson. So it was very country, very farmland.
We also spent a little bit of time talking about her journey as a game developer. Very interesting.
It's just very difficult. I feel like here you really need to know people to get in.
And how her channel was almost completely destroyed by 500 videos that were taken away from her.
I remember I was at a bar with my friends and I just look at my phone and I see that and it ruined my night.
All of this and much more on this chapter of the Built by Anime podcast. What's been up with you? How's your 2024 going?
Actually, I feel like it's been going pretty well. This year, I really wanted to try to branch out and do more things because last year I felt like I was kind of just stuck doing the same things, like recording the same type of content. And I'm like, 2024, I want it to be the year I'm doing different things. Recently, I did a Q&A with the Bleach voice actors, which I was so nervous to do. But I kept telling myself and my friend, I'm like, should I do this? I don't know if I'll be good enough. And I was back and forth. And she's like, no, you got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I have to do this. And it actually was pretty fun. I'm so glad I did it.
What was the nerves about it, do you think? What do you think was the reason for you feeling nervous?
I guess mostly I felt like I wasn't going to ask, or I was going to ask questions that they probably get a lot, because I really was trying to branch out and give them different questions, because I didn't want to be here's a question, and then they're like, oh, you know what, we get this a lot type of thing. That was a worry, and just, I don't know, I respect voice actors a lot, and I look up to them, so it just the nerves. I wanted it to work out and I didn't want to panic. I'm asking a question and then I'm shaking. I'm like, oh no, I hope that doesn't happen. Because in college, in speech classes, those were my worst enemy.
Really?
I was not good. Yeah, no. And it's funny because when I was, I don't know if I should keep going.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm I don't want to trail off, but when I was in college, no, my speech classes were horrible. I hated doing the in-class speech. That was my worst nightmare. But when I was working retail and stuff, it kind of helped me because I was always interacting with customers. So I slowly was able to talk more, because I was very shy growing up. I was awkward, shy. I would not speak up really. And when I tell people that now, they're like, what? Really? I'm like, yeah, YouTube has really helped me out, be more of an outgoing person and talking, I guess. But compared to how I used to be, that was completely different person.
I mean, so this is interesting. So speech class was your Achilles heel, public speaking, it seemed.
Yes.
And that's literally your profession almost.
I know.
Especially if you're doing live streams or anything like that. That's hilarious. I mean, okay, so was that your first kind of panel hosting gig that you've done?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I think it would be different though if I was on stage though. Then I might be. Actually, I don't know if I'd be more nervous with them there or with them on video. I'm not really sure.
Right. I mean, question though. So if you had, have you ever done anything on stage performing arts types of things?
I did show choir once, one summer.
Oh, show choir.
And I was,
okay.
Yeah, I was very young though, so I'm trying to think. Maybe I was 14. I don't know. And I decided I really wanted a solo, but I hated being in front of people. But I was in my head, I'm like, oh, I want to be that person.
Right.
in the stage. And when like the time came, I was so nervous. And then we had microphone problems, so they were relying on us like singing really loud. So like in that moment though, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness, because I felt like I was gonna do really bad. And I know when I was singing, my voice was so shaky, and I'm like, this definitely didn't sound good. But I don't know
How
why,
old were
like
you?
I want to say like 14. I was young. It was young. I did it once and then I'm like, nope, not doing that again. But it was like
I mean,
fun.
that's the age though that's like it could either, if it goes well, it could like catapult you in a direction, or if it goes bad, you
Yeah.
could be like, I'm never doing that again. Like it's definitely that age of like
Yeah.
decision making, of like honing your personality. Yeah, that's hilarious. I was actually in choir for a while.
Oh, really?
So I have a recording artist background, so R&B and stuff like that. But
Oh,
I
wow.
started out in choir, so yeah, I remember the show Choir and like the madrigals, and yeah, that was a interesting time for sure. So you grew up in Cali? Is that where you're from?
No, no, no. I grew up in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Okay, time out. All right, time out. All right, we got to go back. So, Wisconsin, what was that like? Like, where in Wisconsin were you born?
It was just the southern side of Wisconsin. So it was
Got
very
you.
country, very farmland, like not in
Okay.
the big cities, but that was like the event like of the summer, like, oh, we're gonna like go on a road trip to like Chicago or
Hey,
Milwaukee,
shut
like the
down.
bigger cities.
Yeah.
And like now it's crazy living in LA because that's like every day just in the city. But yeah, no, before farmland, nothing to do. Whenever I visit home, it's just like this isn't that exciting. Sorry to everyone that lives in Wisconsin. I'm not hating. I did like growing up in Wisconsin, but it's just boring.
So, what brought you to LA? When did you decide to move to LA?
Um, I feel like, well, my family always tells me that I kind of just always was saying, like, I'm gonna go to California. Like, it was just like a thought in my head. Even when I was little, probably from like seeing movies and you see how LA is depicted and it looks
Right.
amazing. I mean, it is great. But so I kind of in my head always wanted to go to LA. And I was more of an art student. Like, I loved taking art classes. So that was my goal, which obviously I'm YouTuber now, but I had a media arts game development major in college.
What? Hey, yo, that's what's up. That's
Yeah.
fire. Okay. Okay.
But then you learn that like I don't know, it was so hard. Like I went through the interviews like going to places and it's just very difficult. I feel like here you really need to like know people to get in to where you want to be unless you start off like at the bottom and work your way up, which a lot of people do. But it was like discouraging when I got here and I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to like Riot or Blizzard or and get that job because I grew up and I
Right.
loved just playing League of Legends. So
Okay.
I just really wanted to work at Riot and just like never heard back from any of these places. And I'm like, it was
Dang.
hard.
I mean, how many people are going out for those jobs? Is it a lot
A
of people
lot.
that are trying? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So you went to school for that. Like, was
hmm
that always like on your trajectory? Like you're like, I want to develop video games?
Mm, it wasn't, well, I guess more so I was like on the art side of it. Like it had different
Okay.
branches. So I wasn't like coding or I was more of like I would be like the asset maker, like not
Got you.
I did take some classes in coding and stuff, which is very hard. So everyone that can code, I you are amazing because learning that is hard.
So you're
But
more so on like the design side, like more so on
yeah.
like the like sprites and stuff like that type of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. Yeah,
That's
so
sick.
yeah, and I, you know, it was I think before that though, when I was going into college, I was trying to find like what major I wanted to be in. And at first, like I was doing a more traditional art because in my head I wanted to be an animator for Disney. That was like my goal when I
Wow.
was like in high school. And I mean, animation's hard and very
Very.
tedious. So I kind of slowly was like, yeah, no, I cannot do this. But that was like a dream I really wanted to like have.
Mm.
And I still draw, like I still like practice drawing, but
Hmm.
I that was way too difficult. And I kind of picked the game design because I mean, I do like playing games. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this out. And I did like it.
So like when you're talking about like drawing and stuff, because I think a lot of us that are kind of into anime were drawing characters and stuff when we were
Yeah.
little and things like that.
Yeah.
I think all of us had done that, and then some found out that they were actually pretty good at drawing. Were
Mhm.
you? Were you? Did you know that you were a good artist early on, or was that something that you just kept going and got better and better at?
Well, I guess it was kind of, I don't know if my mom was just being nice, but because I look
Mm,
back at my old drawings and I'm like, I guess for that age, but I was drawing like Powerpuff Girls and like whatever I watched as a kid, I would like draw like all the time. I always took our printer paper and I would like draw so many things. And I guess my parents also kind of like pushed me for like art classes too because they're like, "Oh,
hmm.
like you're so good at drawing." And people always told me I was growing up. So that's kind of where I was like, "Okay, maybe like I'll just like keep drawing." But I had a lot of fun doing it. So it was just something I really loved and as a kid I thought I was good at it. I can't really remember. I just think I liked to draw. I didn't really think of like, wow, this looks amazing. I was drawing and I'm like, I just want to draw my favorite characters and like dogs and stuff.
What was your favorite character growing up?
Hmm. I would have to say Frieza. I know for a fact I was always drawing
Really?
Frieza. Yeah, I don't know.
That's hilarious.
I really don't. I want to know like why I started liking Frieza because my brothers, well, I have an older brother, and I think the first time I ever like was exposed to Dragon Ball Z was Budokai, the first game, because they always
Mm.
played it. And instead of watching the show, that's how I got like the story of Dragon Ball Z was through the story mode in that game, and I just really liked Frieza. I don't know why. I really don't know why. And then I started watching the show, and I just always, I think it was Frieza and Teen Gohan were characters
Mm.
I always were drawing. But yeah, especially Frieza, and he was very hard to draw.
Which form? Like the first form
I think I was
with
always
the
trying to
with the
draw the
horns?
second form, the like bigger
The
form.
tall one,
And
yeah.
I really wish I still had like all of those pictures of me drawing. They're probably in a notebook somewhere at my mom's house. I don't know. But that
Yeah,
was
I was
definitely
I was
character.
definitely I was definitely drawing Dragon Ball characters when I was in middle school for sure. Like, oh my God, that was kind of wild. So you played the game first and then
Yeah.
got exposed to the anime through that. That's such an
Yeah.
interesting thing. So was that like your first anime you saw, or did you see any anime prior?
Um, there was, well, we had family friends and one night they came over and I remember I think they were watching I don't think it was Inuyasha. It was some really old anime. And that was like the first
Mm,
time I ever watched anime and I was very young so I could not remember anything about that. But
right.
I remember like just I think the other times it was just like on TV. My brothers always watched it. Like my older brother was into Bleach, I know that, and I always thought that was like such a hardcore like boys show. I never like was interested in
Okay.
checking it out. Even though I watched Dragon Ball Z, which was kind of funny. Like not gonna watch Bleach, but I'm trying to remember. I think it was just on TV and we would just watch it.
Mm.
But then I remember, I think it was in like fifth grade or something, and it was on at like 10 p.m. at night or something. And I had
Oh
school the
wow.
next day, and I remember it was such a struggle for me to stay up until 10 p.m. as a kid. and I really wanted to watch like the episode of Dragon Ball Z on TV. And
Mm.
some nights I would just fall asleep and I wake up, my TV's on. I'm like, no, I missed it.
Yeah. Those days, I kind of, there's something about the streaming era that's great because you could just go and watch stuff. But
Yeah.
there was also a part of the older days where it's like you either record it on VHS, like, or you missed it.
Oh
Like it
yeah.
was one of those. But I don't know if it did. Do you feel like it tied you to the show more because it was like fleeting? Like it was like, hey, if I miss it, I can't see it.
Yeah.
I don't get to see that episode. Like, or do you think it's better now in terms of like the attachment to the shows because you have them readily available?
I honestly, well, I do remember because there was a point where I discovered that YouTube, you can watch, they used to have full episodes of Dragon Ball Z on YouTube. And when
Mm,
I found that, I'm like, whoa, what? I'm like, wow, this is magic. Like, I can just binge through the episodes. And, but before, I don't know, because I would watch it and then go to school and like on my mind, I'm like, wow, that episode of Dragon Ball Z. I remember it too because I think it was when Gohan was fighting Raccoon and it was
mm,
so brutal. Like he got his
mm.
neck, like I think he got his neck snapped or something. And I saw that
Yeah.
as a kid. And that was like, I remember that was on my mind all day at school. I'm like, I hope he's okay. Like in my head, I'm thinking. So I don't know, because I feel like that with shows that air weekly, like I just like waiting, like to find out, letting it just like thinking about it all day instead of just binging through it because then it kind of leaves your mind right away. Like me is
Mm.
sitting there at school thinking if Gohan was dead or not all day compared to if I binged it and
I'm
I would
with
just
you.
know. So,
I'm
but
with you
again,
100%.
yeah. And I do feel that though with Netflix, like sometimes they release, I know they did with JoJo's, they would release it all in one go. And it's kind of sad because people would talk about it for like 2 days and then nothing. Like,
Yep.
and I miss that because I like when people like make theories and talk about it. But when it's all out there, then it's like, I don't know, it's not
Yeah,
as exciting.
that's been my issue with Netflix. Full stop. I'm a part of a film company called Ismahawk, and so I'm kind of in the space a little bit. We've done some stuff for some Netflix shows and things like that, but the um, the thing for me with Netflix was at one point they were the only game in town. So it was like, all right,
Yeah.
they had this whole thing of like you binge, and that was like what the customer kind of went there for. Like, well, I could see all of it at one time. But I think when you start going into the era where we are now, where attention is everything, it's almost counterintuitive, right? It's like, well,
Mhm.
yeah, you may be hot for 48 hours, but after that 48 hours, nobody's talking about it at all anymore.
Yeah.
And for me, that sucked. Like with the live action One Piece,
Mhm.
I was like, this show should have been talked about for 8 weeks, and it was talked
Yeah.
about for like 2 weeks max, like at its height, and then it was gone. And I was like, it was too good, and they spent too much money on it for it to not be talked about for 8 weeks. Like it was just really strange to me. So yeah. In terms of like, okay, so this is funny. So you watched Dragon Ball in the 2000s. You saw some of the episodes on YouTube. So my next question is roughly, how old are you? Because I think there's a delta in our age as well.
29.
Okay. I was like, hold on. I was like, okay, the math. I'm trying to math it really quick. Okay. I was like, all right, that makes sense. So so you have two older brothers, you said, or one older brother?
One older brother, one younger brother.
One older brother. So he was an anime fan, and you kind of got the anime bug through
Yeah.
being around him.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think he still is for the most part. Whenever we see each other, he like talks about it sometimes. But I feel like I'm more of an anime fan now than my brothers were.
That's
But
so cool.
but yeah, no, it definitely was. I think when Naruto even first aired on Toonami, like the first night, I was like up with my brother, and we like just saw it on the TV and we watched it together. But
Mm,
he became like a huge Naruto fan, and I kind of was, but then I I feel like when I watch shows that like when I watched it as a kid, I didn't really understand Naruto that much.
mm.
But I feel like when you go back to a show when you're older, you definitely like can connect with them, the characters better. Like I can't even remember really. I just remember he had like the sexy jutsu and I saw that as a kid. And that's like the only thing I took away from that. Like when I was a kid, I'm like, he turned into a girl. But when I like rewatched it, I feel like just with everything, I guess a good example of that is when I watched Inuyasha like growing up. And I set my alarm for like 3 a.m. Like I would go to bed,
Wow.
wake up at 3 a.m. on Adult Swim, and I never missed an episode of that. Or I probably did, I don't know.
Wow.
But I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with like Inuyasha,
Hmm.
maybe. Oh, you
Yeah.
are? Okay. So
Hmm.
as a kid, I hated Kikyo's character. Like, I hated her so much. I'm like, she's getting in the way of Kagome and Inuyasha. But when I went back to it older, I understood Kikyo. Like, I loved her character when I watched it when I was older. But as a kid, I just like actively hated her character. And I find that interesting because I'm like, you understand like her pain that she went through more as like when you're older, or I guess if you're a kid and understand that, like, good for you. But I, it was crazy going back. I'm like, wow, I'm like, I always hated her character. And now I felt
Mm.
just so sad. Like I cried for her character. And I'm like, wow, I need to like rewatch some things. Now I feel like I completely look
It's
at it.
so it's so interesting because like a lot of times there was one of my mentors had told me one time, when the student is ready the teacher will appear. And
Hmm.
it's like when you're old enough sometimes, or maybe you've lived a little bit more, you can go back and listen to a song, watch a movie, see a TV show, and see things that you just never
Yeah.
saw because you just didn't have the lived experience that maybe the artist
Mhm.
was trying to convey. And you're just like, I didn't get it. And now you're like, oh, I get it, because I watched Naruto in 2018. I never seen it.
Oh,
So I think it
wow.
was 2017, 2018. So I had just started watching it, and in my head, people were like, oh yeah, this is this and da da da. And I was like, if I was a kid, I probably would have loved this show. It probably would have been my favorite of all time as a teenager. If I would have saw it when I was a
Hmm.
teenager, I was like, as an adult watching it, there's things that are really deep. There's things that are a little bit more complex than I think I would have understood as a teenager fully. I think I probably would have enjoyed the fights and stuff more during
Yeah.
that time, and then I think that. But yeah, I'm actually kind of glad that I saw it later on in life,
Hmm.
because I don't think I would appreciate Naruto now, the way I do now, than I
Yeah.
if I would have saw it when I was younger. Yeah, that's so interesting. But it's so funny that you got introduced to anime through your brother, and then you became the anime nerd. Like you became
I
like
know.
the. Do you guys ever talk about that at all? Like, does that ever come up, like that y'all kind of
Um,
switched up?
Uh, I mean, I would say he still is pretty much a fan. I just think I watch a lot more than he does. Like,
Mm,
I think he's more of like a shonen anime watcher because I know he watches like Naruto, One Piece, uh, Jujutsu Kaisen. I think he's more of like a shonen anime
mm,
watcher. Where I like, I do watch shonen, but I've also seen so many other like shows like Free Ren or
mm.
Free
That's my anime
Zero.
of 2023, by the
Free
way.
Ren, oh my gosh.
I just need to put
Yeah.
that out there. I don't know why Crunchyroll decides to do this September to October year thing, but
Yeah.
Frieden, I fucking love that show. Continue. I'm so sorry for interrupting. I just
Oh
needed
no.
to
I mean,
drop that.
I Free Ren is like my show right now. I think I'm on like episode 17, but that show like I don't know, I feel like people that are younger might view it differently, but I feel like when it's because it's about like time and appreciating time that it really makes me emotional. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
love this show, but it scares me like
Yeah. It's so
uh
good. It's so good.
it's amazing. If you have not seen Free Ren, definitely watch it,
Yes.
people.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's one of those things too, because I think, to your point, the people that are really into just hardcore shonens may not appreciate the subtleties in Frieren. So like
Yeah.
knowing that, like what you were talking about the whole time aspect, the ability for her to go back and because she's lived for so long and trying to, like, she's becoming Heimel. You know what I'm saying? Like she's
Yeah.
learning, she's trying to understand him more. And she's going back and remembering all these things that he would do and put a smile on her face. Like it's a very subtle but complex show. Like I love it. I think it's great. I think
I
it's
think
great.
that with shonen too. I feel like people that are really into shonen, and I've seen people be like, "Oh, watch Freer and the animation's like amazing." I'm like, that should not be the reason. I mean, you should try to watch it, and I guess if you can
Right.
convince someone through the animation to watch it, but I feel like it's more of a patient thing because it feels like a very like slow, like just you're going on this journey with them type of show, and I feel like shonen's more fast paced, like it's like boom, 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 boom. That just slowing down with Free Ren. I feel like people can get into it if you just give it the time. Because in the first like episode, they even like get to the point of like, oh, she lost someone, and then you kind of find out more about their relationship, and then it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that first episode got me. I was like, "Oh, I'm
oh
in." I
yeah.
was like, I was like, "Yeah, that was great." It's so what are the so you obviously don't just watch shonen, you watch a variety. Like what do you think out of the different types of anime that you've consumed is like kind of like your favorite genre?
I think slice of life. I definitely
Oh,
think the
really?
slice of life, like Violet Evergarden, or I don't. Yeah, that would be slice of life. I think. Your Lie in April. I feel like shows that are very emotional. I love them. I mean, I love, but I hate them because they make me so depressed. But I
Mm,
just like. I think it's more of the like realistic shows that I tend to gravitate towards compared to shonen. I do like shonen because I love that like hype adrenaline it gives you, but I feel like slice of life, the stories that you can find within those are just so they're just so good.
I mean, that was something for me, like, because when I started doing reactions, it was like obviously the shonen stuff because that's what I knew,
Yeah.
right? Like I grew up with Dragon Ball Z, and then I started watching more things that were like that, right? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and then when I started doing reaction, the people were telling me to watch certain shows. I was like, what's this? And you start getting different feels, and I think the first thing that shifted me was like Death Note, and I was like,
Oh
what the
yeah.
hell is
Death
this? Like
Note.
this is a murder mystery? Like what is I and because I didn't think anime could be more than the action stuff. That's all I
Yeah.
thought anime was action, right? And then I was like, oh, this like it's like film or TV, but they're just animated. There's a whole bunch of genres in here, and
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, so what was that first thing that you saw that was off of like I guess the beaten path that you're like, oh, this is
Um,
interesting.
well, I was gonna also say, well, Death Note kind of because I watched the live action first before the anime. And
Wow. Okay.
which
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
think is different for me because a lot of people hate that live action. And I think it's bad, but it's not like horrible. I had fun watching it. And it's probably because I never watched the anime first. And then when I watched the anime, I'm like, wow, the live action was awful. But it got me to watch the anime. And when I watched
Right.
it, I was so into it. I just binged through a lot of it because I'm like, this is so different. Like, I love this. I would say Death Note, and I'm trying to remember my first like um slice of life I ever watched. I'm trying to remember when people were asking me to watch stuff when I watched, and now I can't remember. Um it was more so like recommended. Like people recommended me all these shows, and I if I never did reactions, I don't know if I ever would have checked them. Oh, I guess okay, I guess my friend in high school or on High School Host Club, we watched that together. Which I
High
guess
School
that's
Host Club.
yeah, and that show never I don't know. I tried rewatching it. I'm like, yeah. It was cute though when I was like in high school.
Okay.
It's kind of a crazy show. It's more of a romance, I guess you would say, but that didn't
Okay.
like make me want to watch like a whole bunch of other romances, so I wouldn't really count that. But oh, I think Toradora. I don't know if you know what Toradora is.
I've heard it, but I haven't seen it.
It's a really good show, and I feel like
Mm.
it's a comedy, it's romance, slice of life. And I feel like that's the show that made me interested in checking out more of that genre. Because I think
Mm.
I'm like, wow, this is really good. Like, I love this. It's not just fighting, and you have these relationships that are built throughout the series, and I'm like, okay, I like this. Because in shonen, you don't really get that,
Right.
and sometimes you do, but not really deep relationship building in shonen. So when I
Yeah.
started watching those, I'm like, wow, okay, I like this. I like, when you have two characters, you get that like slow build up in their relationship, and then normally the series ends with them getting together. I'm like, I really like this.
Yeah. So, do you feel like your tastes in anime, in terms of genre, mimic like your tastes in live action stuff, like in cinema or like in TV?
Oh yeah, I would think so because I'm more of like I love just a good romance movie or a good sad movie. And
Mm.
like I'm trying to now I can't think like The Time Traveler's Wife, or I think that's the name of that movie. I saw
The
that
Time
and that was
Traveler's Wife. I think that sounds familiar.
it's yeah, I remember just seeing that once on TV, and I it made me so depressed and sad. And I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I love these because I think they're so romantic, but like they they like hurt your soul. But I almost feel like when you have like a romance movie, or like most of the time it's like rewarded, but I honestly feel like I get it through anime better. Like I get that feeling of
Mm.
like, wow, this feels like it was like they hit it on the mark compared to like live action.
Do you think sometimes it's because like in animation you can go to the extremes of emotions? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
almost like they oversell, like a cry is like this crazy,
Oh yeah.
overdrawn. Like, do you think it helps sell the emotion a little bit more?
I think that, and also I feel like anime OSTs are more dramatic
Mm.
than you would get in a live action because I feel like I can't imagine like someone's crying and there's this like very loud, beautiful like piano track like going over
Right.
them, and I feel like that gets me too because if an anime has a really good OST, like that will always
Yeah.
like it'll go on like a theme song, and that will really trigger an emotion. I'm like, okay, they're about to fight, like yes, or like a really sad
Yeah.
scene. Like Vinland Saga. Oh my gosh, Vinland Saga. That show was like one of my favorites that I recently watched.
Yeah. Vinland Saga saved my life, actually. I
Oh,
did a I
really?
did a video on this 2 weeks ago on this channel, actually. But it was the first episode of season 2 of Vinland Saga.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
was like January 14th, 13th of January 10th, something like that, of 2023. Yeah, and there was a line in there. Did you see season 2 already? I'm assuming you
Yes,
have.
I'm all caught up. I'm all caught up.
Okay, so you know how him and his family are fleeing because
Yeah.
their village is getting raided. Mom gets
Hmm.
hit. Boom. He goes down and he's panicking, doesn't know what to do. And she's like, "You need to get out of here." And she was like, "Stay alive and you can start again." That
Oh,
bar
yeah.
for me was like a punch in the gut. It was like the perfect smack me around really quick because I was going through it bad, and like that
Hmm.
was like a moment of like they're fighting for their life right now, and she's saying, "Look, just live, get out of here, and you can start over." Like just, and it was just
Hmm.
one of those moments, and I was like, "That's yeah, Vinland Saga hits for sure for me, 100%." I think for what you're talking about with the OSTs though, like the music is. The one that killed me like that was the first season of The Promised Neverland. That
Oh, I've never seen
what
it. I've never seen it.
what? Hey
Yeah,
yo, okay, okay, hey, time out. Okay, all right. So
I've
my
seen one
personal
episode.
request, you seen one episode?
Yeah, and the reason I kind of stopped was because they were going really hard with copyright for that show, and I did one episode and they gave strikes out to people, so I'm like, not gonna mess with it. Not gonna mess with it,
Oh,
and I just never
really?
watched it on my own time. Yeah, no, everyone that
Okay.
tried during that time had issues. So I'm like, nope, sorry.
I luckily didn't.
Oh,
I
really?
luckily on my reactions, it's so weird. The shows that I feel I get away with, nobody else does. And then it's the
Yeah,
exact opposite with the other shows. I'm like, I just
that's
uploaded
crazy.
this, and then it's the copyright system is crazy. But if you get a chance to on your own time, if you want, that first season, the second season is shit, but the first
Yeah.
season is incredible. Yeah. Yeah, if you're an OST head for sure, like if you like what you described, that fucking first season is magic.
Hmm. Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think like well, back to Vinland Saga 2 with the OSTs, like there are some really good ones in there that I'm trying to feel like I feel like whenever there's like an emotional or not like a more empowering speech, like
Mm,
especially near the end with Thorfinn. I'm
yeah.
trying to think. There's one that continuously plays, and I remember with the no enemies line, and I'm trying to I don't
Oh,
know OST's names, but when that OST started playing, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like I'd have to say, like, at least from the shows I've watched, but Freerun also has really good OSTs, but Vinland Saga,
yeah.
those really get me. Like I will start crying when like they come on. I'm like, this is so good.
Yeah, the music is big for me. I think sometimes it gets overlooked as being one of the most important parts of a show, any type
Mhm.
of like show, anime, live action, whatever, because it helps like sell a mood or a tone that they're going for. Like music
Yeah.
could ruin a scene. Like it can completely ruin it. So it's very important. And I think anime does a really good job at that. So how did you fall into reactions? Like how did you get
Oh.
into that? Like, cause I'm assuming you were watching anime before you were doing reactions. So
Uh, Yeah, I was kind of. I feel like the only anime I really was watching was at that time was Dragon Ball Super. It came back and I was in college, so I was really busy with
mm,
college. I wasn't really watching that many anime. I started watching Naruto from the beginning in college because when I was a kid on Toonami, I only saw it like broken up. Like the Chunin exams was like the only thing I ever saw on TV. So I watched Naruto like through college and like through my move here to LA because it was like
mm,
I think it was just finishing up, um, airing at least the final episodes of Naruto Shippuden.
mm-hmm.
Um, but so I was watching that, and then Dragon Ball Super was also back, and I was kind of watching it, but I was busy with college and then graduation. But I got back into Super because I saw that Frieza was returning. And so like on my YouTube channel, I like posted a review on the episode, just me talking about Frieza because I like Frieza so much. And I was
Yeah.
really excited for him to come back. And then in the comments on that video, people saw they're like, you should do reactions. And I'm like, what? I didn't really know what like that was for like anime videos. Like
Mm-hmm.
like the Fine Bros reaction channel like but they do
Right.
like little tiny clips. So I didn't really like understand what they were asking for and then I had to search in. I'm like, "Oh, people are just like reacting to anime." Except I
Mm-hmm.
feel like so I wasn't really sure like how that was going to work and my old like system for that was insane. I used Windows Movie Maker. I
Oh
had like the
wow.
screen fading in and out. I'm like, how do you make it transparent? And I was trying to everything, all the technical stuff. So I posted that and it did well. I'm like, okay, I'll like keep posting reactions. And obviously, like I wanted to because Frieza was back and I was really excited. And so that kind of started
Because
that. And then
at the time, your channel was Super Mecha Frieza. So like
yeah.
that was like your
Yeah.
handle too. So it was like perfect.
I know. I made that 2013, I think is when I made my YouTube channel.
Mm,
Like just I made it and I'm like I don't know why I picked Super Mecha Frieza because Mecha Frieza isn't even my favorite form of Frieza. I think I was
mm-hmm.
going to do like Super Frieza or I don't know. I don't remember my thought process for that, but I always just kind of kept it until I think like 2 years ago I changed it just because
Mm-hmm.
of I didn't want my like channel to be branded as Frieza when I'm not doing Dragon Ball Z content. That was That was
Yeah.
just and also just if I ever wanted to do like branding, I don't think I could with Super Mecha Frieza
Mm,
as my channel name, but yeah, so
mm,
I really got into reactions because of that, and I guess it kind of just I was like, okay, I'll keep doing it. And after Super ended, people were like, your channel's gonna die. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it would have if I didn't do anything else, obviously. And I think I started Attack on Titan after that because I was like
mm,
trying to figure out a series that like I could do on my channel. And then One Piece was like a huge one. I feel like that one really like pushed my channel to where it is now.
mm.
Um, which gave me like I didn't really have like copyright issues until I think like I was 400 or something episodes into One Piece, and then I think it was my channel and Struck by Bells. We were just hit like they struck like 500 of our videos, just all 500. Or no, they blocked them. They blocked them. They didn't strike it. So one day, like I look and all my videos are gone. I'm like, and I saw that their videos were gone. I'm like, what the hell? Like, it was just, and like, if we really wanted to, we can go and fight them. But the process to fighting those, it's like you risk getting a strike and then you have to
So
wait.
long.
And I was not going to do that for 500 videos. It was insane when that happened. But now I feel
Mm,
like, I don't know if it's because a lot of people do reactions now that the copyright issues are just, they don't happen as often as they
mm.
used to. Like there was a point where it was like you always had to worry about that. I even had I think I lost videos that were just like me talking about like the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. I had a video just talking about it. It got struck. And I didn't show anything, not even like a picture. And like they totally just saw like title Dragon Ball Z and they're like, nope, bye.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
so
have,
interesting. A lot of those things though are like a third party companies. They're not actually the companies. They're like representatives.
yeah.
They're like a company that claims to be a representative of this company and they get some kind of
Mhm.
kickback. But I'm sorry, continue. It's annoying. But
Oh yeah. So in that moment it was kind of like, do I want to like keep doing this? This was just stressful. Like all of the like work I put into editing those videos and it's just gone. And it was
hmm,
a lot too. And when you lose that much, it like hurts your channel too because those were like that was a lot of views that just like vanished because it got
mm,
blocked. So then I just kept doing it though. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back and react and like keep doing it. And it kind of like was still an issue because I don't know if they like specifically target channels like when they see a
mm,
channel because it felt like they were just sitting there waiting for me to upload next and be like block or like a couple days
mm,
later. And eventually it like stopped and I was at a point where I was really just like my edits were I would say my editing now is a lot better than it was before cuz now I do like zoom ins. Before I just kind of like cut like the video up and sometimes
hmm.
I would insert like just me, but I feel like now maybe I don't have issues because I just do it a little more than I did before.
Mm.
But that was always a thing that kind of made me like, do I want to keep doing reactions? But I like doing reactions because, like, even for me, like, sometimes I'll like go back and I'll be like, what did I think during this moment? So I'm like, I want to keep doing this, especially for One Piece. But I definitely, like I said earlier, I want to branch out and do more this year than just like
Mm.
reaction videos. And so, yeah.
Well, so like in that process, like what helps you move forward when you get 500 videos just blocked? What's like the motivating driving force for you to be like, all right, well, like, cause I feel like anybody that has put that type of work in and then have that essentially ripped from them, it's got to be like the biggest gut punch.
Yeah. And when that happened, I was back at home, like in Wisconsin. I remember I was at a bar with my friends and I just look at my phone and I see that and it ruined my night. Like that completely like I'm like what? And I couldn't do anything because I wasn't even like here. I wasn't at my
Mm,
computer and I'm like it was sad. That got me for like a week. I was just upset that that even happened. And I'm like, oh, am I going to lose my channel? Because that's a fear too. I mean, they just
Mm.
were blocked, but you just get a strike and then you're worrying about that too. Like there were points where I would get like 2 strikes randomly and it'd be like
Mm.
third strike and you lose your channel. And I'm like, okay, if I lose my channel, like I feel like now if that were to happen, which that would be awful, but I feel like I would be able to get myself to at least like try to build myself back up after that.
Mm.
Um, even though I don't think technically you're supposed to on YouTube, but I know a lot of people do that. They lose a channel
For
and then
sure.
like,
They start again.
but it's, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I guess eventually I just tried it again, but I know for a period of time I was really contemplating. I'm like, do I want to do this? Like, am I going to put all this effort and just have it gone? You know, it really brings you down. So I guess just going after being like, I'm going to do it. And if it turns out bad, I'll figure it out from there. But that was kind of my mindset at that moment.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome because like I think sometimes like when you get hit like that, a lot of people could just say fuck it, like all right, well I'm not doing that again at all. Like 'cause
Mhm.
it does make you feel some kind of way. Like I think anybody that has had a channel in the reaction space and you have like an email notification come in and said your video's been blocked. You're like what? And, like
Mhm.
it 100% will ruin your morning, your night. Like even with one, I can't imagine a flurry of
Yeah.
them coming in and you're just like what the hell, because like you said, if those 500 were strikes, because they could strike it,
Mhm.
it could have easily been 500 strikes and it'd have been wraps. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's so wild. So what are those things that obviously you said you want to try some new stuff, you want to like, is it more so on the side of like not wanting to continue the kind of repetitious type of work? You just want to add something else in there to kind of like spark the creativity stuff, or what's like the
Yeah.
motivation for you to want to do more stuff?
Well, again, I still want to do my reactions. I probably want to
Mm.
just do less. Like I'm trying to not like overload. Like sometimes when you're doing reactions, you want to just do as many shows as possible, like to stay with like the trends and stuff. But I kind of like pushed back a bit because I feel like it got to a point where I was like just doing reactions. Like I'd wake up, watch, edit. Like, and it was like my day was over. And I'm like, okay, I definitely want to do more than that. And I feel like a dream of mine would be to be able to like do like travel vlogs and stuff. I know that's
Mm.
completely different than like what I'm doing now, but I just love like the people that like go to Japan or go to these events and like I just find those videos really interesting, and I just am one who always wants to travel.
Mm.
And I'm like, hopefully one day that I can do that. And that'd be really cool if, like, to make a living off of doing that. To all the channels that do that, I'm so jealous of them. I'm like, I wish I could, like, wish I could just travel and, like, review things and, like, just be somewhere, like, in Japan, like, go to all these places. I'm like, that is the dream. Or just, like, vlogging, like, around LA, because LA, there's a lot to do. So
Mhm.
I tried it once. I did like one vlog on my second channel, I think like 4 years ago. One day I was just like, I'm just gonna do random stuff and vlog it. But the one thing is in public, recording yourself is like something I just find it weird. Like if I'm holding a
It's
camera
hard
and
to get
talking
used
to
to.
it, yeah, I'm like, to all the people that can do that, like how do you do that? I need to know how you do that because, like, I just feel like I'm just being really annoying to everyone around. Like, I'm like, hi guys, and like, I make sure no one's around, and then I'll talk to the camera.
You know, it's look, you're trying to be courteous, right? And
Yeah,
I appreciate that. At the same time, with that type of content, you have to say fuck it. There's
I
a
know. I
level
never.
of there's a level of fuck it that you have to have, and you're just like, all right, well, we're gonna do it anyways. These people don't know who I am. They're never gonna see me again. Oh well, right? And
That is true.
It's one of those moments, I think, that, like, for instance, me and my partner, we went to Japan last year for 18 days.
Oh, wow.
And it was like a bucket list for me, right? It's like huge bucket list. And it was definitely, their culture is very different than the United States. I live in Australia, and it's very similar to the States. Japan is drastically different. Like, you don't see a lot of people walking around with cameras like that. And so it's like, you don't want to be disrespectful. You don't know what is respectful, what's disrespectful. So I think there it kind of made me be like, okay, like, I want to say fuck it, but at the same time, like, I don't want to be a nuisance either. Like, so I know what you're talking about mentally. You're like, like, I don't want to do this, but I need to do this. So yeah, it's definitely a slippery slope.
Well, I think my one time I was at Disneyland, and there's this guy that was like live streaming on TikTok, I think. I'm not sure. He was like screaming out all the gifts and whatever that people were sending him, but it was like this water show, and he was just like holding his phone up and just like yelling really loud at like the gifts people were sending him, and he's like, look at this, like recording it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I do, like in my head I think I'm that person when I'm like trying to record in public, but I'm like, I did not, like, that's too much. But I feel like especially in LA you actually see that a lot. Like, you'll see a lot of people vlogging themselves, like if they're ever holding their phone up, you're like, are you FaceTiming or are you vlogging yourself type of feel. So I guess here it probably would be easier than, say, if I was in Wisconsin doing that. I probably would get like everyone staring at me like, this person's weird, like, what are you doing? But I feel like here I could get away with it. It's just like, to me, I just like can't get out of that mindset that like I'm bothering everyone in the, like, wherever I am.
I mean, but again, like that kind of just speaks to like who you are as a person. Like, you're very courteous, like, and that's a good trait to have. Like, it's, at least you don't think like the opposite immediately. Like, all right, cool, I'm here. Like, because it's like, you know, then you're like, everybody has that feeling about you. Like, man, okay, this person's annoying. Because I've had friends that would always kind of do like vlogs and stuff. They were never really good at it. Nothing really went anywhere with it. But they always had cameras with them, and they were just very loud and obnoxious with it. And to me, that was kind of like a turn off for it, because I don't like that.
I feel like I'd just get secondhand embarrassment if someone was like yelling, vlogging, like in public, and I was just there. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a fun scenario to be in. So, okay, so travel vlogs, that's interesting. Like, we've done some stuff like that before. And do you think, I mean, it's a lot of work though. Like, it's a lot of work. So like, are you up for that? Like, are you up for the workload that comes with that?
Oh yeah, I'm like, whenever you see it, like, because there are good ones that you see, and then there are like ones that are like, just like for fun. I feel like I would mostly want to do it just like traveling, documenting it for fun, at least at first. And I guess if people enjoy it, then maybe I can be like, maybe I want to like do this. Because I feel like I'm in my head, I'm like, I don't know how many years I will want to keep doing reactions, you know?
Right.
Like, I feel like there's probably a point where I'd be like over it, or I'm like getting older and I like don't want to do that anymore, and maybe something more like lifestyle. Because that's always in my head. I'm like, I'll definitely like keep reacting at least until One Piece finishes. Like, I have been on this journey from the beginning. I'm gonna stick around for when it ends. If it's in like 5 years, hopefully it's only like 5 more years. I don't know if I can go longer than that. But I guess just like, the only other content, like traveling, sometimes I really do like doing videos with more of like fun editing. Like I've always wanted to do like reviews. Like I see like Gigux videos on
Mm,
YouTube and I really like his editing style and like how he does his
mm,
videos. They're very fun to watch. Like in my head I'm like I wish I could do something like that.
mm-hmm.
Um Also besides just like reaction to just like talking about my favorite shows. And I feel like people always want like reviews, but the only thing that puts me off from doing that is I feel like even in reactions, like I give a little review at the end and people like sometimes pick apart everything I say or like I'll missay something or I'll miss like something that happens like oh this happened in
You're
the
not paying
episode.
attention. You're not
But
paying attention.
yeah,
Come
One
on,
Piece used to
Jamie.
get that a lot. There's like, oh, this happened in this arc that happened like 5 years ago when you watched it
You're
or
not a real
something.
fan, Jamie.
I'm like,
You're not a real
holy.
fan.
Sometimes I wonder if these people just see the comment, they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, if you can remember that, wow, because I watch like so
Right.
many shows throughout the year. I'm like, how do you like certain things? Yes, but I just like I feel like when you do a review, you open yourself to a lot of criticism on that video and
Yeah.
that's what I'm afraid of because I'm like I don't want to say something wrong or an opinion that people will attack me for, but I guess I've done it in the past and people enjoyed it. So that's another thing. That's at least easier than a travel vlog to just do like sit down and do a review of like a show I really enjoyed. Like I might do that for Vinland Saga because that is a show
Mm,
I've really freaking enjoyed so much more than I thought I was going to.
mm.
But yeah, I've always wanted to do that with shows, like at least shorter ones, like maybe do an entire like my thoughts video on.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. I started out. Do you ever see the show The Flash
Oh, the CW
or
show?
heard of it? The CW show. Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I heard of it.
Okay. First 3 seasons are good. After that, it kind of gets wah wah. But the I was starting on that show. I was doing reviews first,
Mhm.
and then I got into reactions after. Like as it was going,
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
"Oh, people are like you should do reactions." I was like, "Okay," but I was doing reviews on it, and like theory videos and stuff like that. But I 100% agree with you. Like you get so many people that are like hardcore,
Hmm.
and will yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So what was like your funnish show that you've reacted to, and then which show were you the most disappointed with?
Okay. I know there's one that I was the most disappointed with. I'll start with that one first. We'll end on a good
Okay.
note with that question.
Okay.
Shoot. Okay, I will have to. I think The Devil is a Part-Timer, the second season, because I loved the
mm,
first season. And when I came
mm,
back for the second season, I didn't even finish reacting to it because I'm like, this is just not good. And like, obviously, I feel like I don't know if some people will just like keep watching it. Like sometimes you'll be like, okay, I'll just finish it and see how it ends up. That one I was just so not, I was very bored with it. It was really different than the previous season. So that was one I was very disappointed. Another one I stopped watching was Overlord. I don't know if you know what
mm.
that. I
I know what it
loved
is, but I haven't watched it.
I liked season one and two, but it just like was another show. Like people like it, people enjoy it. It just was not my type of show.
Mm,
Um, it's like an isekai where it's more of I guess if you are really into like role based like video games, I think people really like that.
okay.
But that was like another one where I was just kind of like, and when I'm not really interested in it, I just stop reacting to it because I'm not going to sit there and be like,
The same.
oh
I'm
my
the
gosh, to like
same.
the
I'm
most
the
boring part.
same. I'm the same. That's funny.
But Spy Family, I did not drop it. I feel like people will like maybe see this and be like, did she drop Spy Family? No, I finished it. I just need to edit it for YouTube. Okay. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I just need to say that. The funnest one, I would have to say, I would have to say Demon Slayer because I feel like when I watched like
Mm,
the community with that, like some of the hypest moments, I feel like it's like everyone's just like celebrating these like hype moments in Demon Slayer, and it's just really
Mm,
fun like during those.
mm,
It's not my favorite show, but I feel like reacting to it, there's just I feel like it's a very reaction show.
for
Like when
sure.
they're fighting and like season two, like that moment. You watched Demon Slayer, right? I'm assuming
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I don't.
yeah, yeah.
With Tengen, that moment that's still like my favorite moment where he just shows up and it's like, oh my gosh! Like I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
maybe Demon Slayer and like Jujutsu Kaisen get like me like very like my adrenaline going when I'm like watching it.
Mm,
Very shonen shows, but I just have a lot of fun watching those shows. So I'd probably put
yeah.
those up there.
You're how you explained certain shows are just good reaction shows.
Hmm.
I think some people don't. Some viewers may not understand what that means, right? Because I think sometimes they think a good show means it's good, a good show to
Yeah.
react to, and sometimes it's not. Like sometimes good shows, there's really not a lot of reacting happening. It's kind of you
Yeah.
just sitting there digesting story or. So have you ever seen a show where it was that where it's a good show, but like the reactions weren't really like there was really nothing to really react
Um,
to?
I would say, well, I guess say Freerun, I feel like, because it's a very low
Mm,
key show for the most part. And I think one of my reactions actually probably just went up like an hour ago to Freerun on YouTube, for the
mm-hmm.
first time. But like, definitely will get cries out, but it's not like a show where you're sitting there like, yeah, like let's go, free reign, come on. Like
Right,
you're
right,
kind of just like digesting what you're watching, and it's I feel
right.
like I forgot how I explain it. I feel like when I'm watching it, it's a very like I feel like I'm watching like ASMR or something. It's very chill. Like,
Mm,
and I guess like to hear your thoughts is probably like what could make it reaction worthy. Like if something happens, you like
mm,
give your thoughts. Um, so I'd put that in that category because I almost feel like shonens are the best to react to if you
yeah.
want like those hype moments. But I see like again, I see some channels where like it's a person sitting there and they're not even saying anything, and I'm like, is
Mm.
this really a reaction? Like, but I guess well, free run does get the emotions out of you, so I
Mm,
guess I don't know. I'm like, it is a good reaction show, but it's not like I feel like it would ruin it if you're just always constantly like talking over everything happening. Because I know in mine a lot, it's like facial reactions or like I'll react briefly to like something said, like an "oh my gosh" or something.
right.
But compared to like a shonen where I feel like you're like cheering on a fight basically. Like Dragon Ball Super, the finale, like that's my most viewed
Oh yeah.
reaction video on my channel because
Mm,
that was like when I watched it, that was like I feel like as a kid, and I think I told some people this, but I would like imagine like Goku and Frieza like teaming up as a kid, like fighting
oh
together, and
wow.
everyone's like, "Wow, that's so stupid! Like that would never happen." And I wish, I wish I like had
That's
some
hilarious.
documentation of that because it's something I definitely like in my head. So when I was watching that episode, I'm like, "Wow, this is like my fan like dream come true." Like I
Yeah.
always wanted this to happen, and I know it was mixed. People are like, it's kind of weird Goku and Frieza fighting, but it was
Right.
probably the hypest like moment of my life just because like that's something I always wanted to happen that I didn't really think would happen as a kid. Like back when you watched Frieza Saga, you would never think Goku and Frieza would team up and fight
Correct.
together. Like no way. So people thought I was like delusional when I said that, like way back then. And then when it was actually happening, and I kind of thought that too, like throughout it, I'm like, they're gonna have a moment together, huh? And it did, and I'm like, I feel like Dragon Ball Super is a very good reaction worthy show too, especially because a lot
Yeah.
of people grew up with it, so it's like
Right.
nostalgia, like, and just like you're excited because it's like fighting. Like who's gonna
Yeah.
win, even though you probably know who's gonna win the fight.
Yeah. Are you excited about Dragon Ball Daima?
I am, but honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna react to it because they are the. I feel like anything Dragon Ball is the hardest thing to get away with reactions to. Like no matter what, you can show like nothing and they'll take you down.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. That's Dragon Ball is a rough one. I had a few really big reactions to Dragon Ball, and a couple of them got claimed, and then some of them actually got taken down. And I was just like, oh no. So I will try my best, but I think if I get a strike, I might have to do like a Patreon only or something. Like there's just no way for me to.
They sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had that issue, but there was an issue with like Naruto reactors, but they were going into Patreons and like.
Oh, we're in that Discord. Remember we were talking about this in Yes. Yes.
I forgot there was that YouTube Discord.
You know what's so crazy is people were like, hey, where did these things go? I'm like, yo, they cleaned like 10,000 posts out of Discord channels to copyright claim. 10,000. I was like, damn. That's wild. Yeah.
They're and then a lot of people
a lot of people appealed it though, and then she got cleared.
I hope it doesn't happen again. But they were going into Discord, so like that was creepy. That was so like scary because I'm like, who is it? Like, who is in the Discord? Because I would post something instantly, like, gone. I'm like, okay, someone's just lurking in here. What the hell?
Yeah.
And I think that happened twice, though. So, and it was like around this time of year. I'm like, oh my gosh, please let's not do that again. Like,
right.
And it's a lot, too. It was a lot. There were so many channels affected by that. But then, like, some people moved it to Discord and some just continued like a week after, because I guess it was just someone that they paid to like go through and they were done. Well, so
what happened was that there's this guy, I'm not going to say his name because we know who you are, guy, but there's this guy that has a particular company, and what he does is he'll go through and find copyright content and then take those things to said company and say, hey, I did all this for you, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah. And he gets some kind of kickback for that.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's not really an affiliate. It's not really like Shueisha or Toei. It's like a subsidiary or like some third party company trying to do things on behalf of another company. But it's
so
really
they didn't
not.
Even send them out. It was some dude that was just like, I'm going to get some money.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like seeing that type of stuff happen. So when you start doing appeals and they have a certain amount of time to reply to those appeals, and if they don't, then it's like, well, it's going back up. And that's what happens. And even on YouTube, it's the same thing. Like people started appealing, and then no company is going to spend the time to do that and take you to court. And then on top of that, the PR nightmare that's going to cause for these, it's like, I think they just need to understand that this type of content now exists and it's helping your brand. Like it's just helping your brand, and you don't even see that it is.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, how many people do you know that either you were watching something and they got put onto a show because you decided to watch it? Like you were like, oh, I'm watching this, and like, oh, I didn't think I'd watch this, and now I like it. Or how many times are people coming to the show, coming to react to your watch your reactions after they've already seen the episode?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had, like, even on like Patreon, I get comments where I'll start a new show and they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go watch this and I'll be back to watch your reactions. Like, I've never had someone say, because like, why? Like, why would you sit there? Like, yeah, I guess it's like watching it with someone, but you're not really getting the show. Like, if someone's talking over it, like, you know, I wouldn't do that. But I had that with, recently I posted Has Been Hotel reactions on my channel, and I had a lot of people say that they checked out the show because they're like, oh, I've never like heard of this. Sure, I'll check it out. And now they're like talking to me about it. They really enjoyed it. So I'm like, there you go. But you know what? I feel like they probably know that. Because so far I have not had issues with them. And Netflix too. When I did my live action One Piece, I remember I got a block once and I like sent it to like get appealed or whatever. It's not like I I think that's the step before, like, they either accept or deny it and nothing happens.
Right.
They actually accepted it. So I'm like, oh, okay, like that's rare. Like normally they deny, they'll
Mm.
wait like the 30 days and hit like, nope, sorry, and then it'll be blocked again. But they actually
Mm.
accepted that, and they did that with JoJo's too, like Warner Brothers. So I feel like
Mm.
more of the like American companies that might like the system might get it, they'll like approve of it. Like compared to like the Japanese companies, which I feel like normally they'll just like you'll wait those 30 days. Like I know for my One Piece ones sometimes I'll get a claim. Like recently I've been getting claims that are like 5 seconds long on like the
Yeah.
OST or something, but they're like during a part where it's like I feel like the most important part of my reaction, so I can't just like cut it out.
Right.
And like today I just saw that I got one too. I'm like, this is like 5 seconds, like what? And I fought it. It
Right.
went 30 days at the very end. They're like, nope, sorry. But it's not blocked. They're just like taking the monetization, which it annoys me
Right.
because I'm like, they claimed 5 seconds and they're gonna take all of it. Like I spend
Yeah.
hours editing these videos, man. But honestly, I'm not gonna fight it because I don't want to deal with the strike. So it's kind of like that's how they win
Have you
though.
appealed it? Have you appealed it?
No, because I
You
really don't want
disputed
to
it.
strike. Yeah, I disputed it.
When we're done, we'll talk. We'll talk when we're done.
Okay.
When we're done with the pod, we'll talk. We'll talk.
Okay, I disputed it, and I'm just like, once it gets past that, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna. I
Yeah,
have
that's
before
annoying.
though. I have, and like it will. It's a process, and eventually, I just thought that maybe if they just claim monetization, those would be easier to fight back, but it's not for me at least with the ones I tried. Or I tried it once and they didn't approve of it. So I'm like, okay, they're obviously not. And it's from the same, it's not a toy or anything. I don't know exactly what it is. It's like, it seems like it's a music company because they're claiming the OSTs. And I am noticing that like this arc in One Piece, it has like a type of OST. And they just claim like the
Yeah.
smallest little piece of it. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So like in terms of, because obviously you're a reactor. Is this what you do full time? Are you a full time?
yeah. Back when I did Dragon Ball Super, I was actually working retail and doing the reactions because that was like the
Yeah.
only, like I did like a once a week reaction. So there's like no way that would have supported me at all.
Right.
And then it kind of I kind of went to the decision of like, okay, I can like do this full time. Like, because I couldn't have my job and like really like grind out videos. That was like impossible.
Right.
I could barely do like once a week.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And that was like when Super ended and I was starting like Attack on Titan and I think I started One Piece too. That was like I was like done with my job. Like I quit my job and I was like focusing and it was like kind of scary because I was like in that in between where I'm like I'm making a decent amount of money, but it wasn't like enough. Like if my channel just like slowly started getting less views from that point, I'd be like that was a risky move I shouldn't have done. But I kind of
Right.
just like took that risk and it ended up working out because I just kept like putting out content. And I think Patreon really helped that too because YouTube was very like, it was risky because you never like, I feel like Patreon, you get that core fan, like you get
Yeah.
your core fans that will stick around. And YouTube, it's kind of like, well, back old YouTube was fine with subscribers. Now it's like, I have so many
Yeah.
subscribers, but like, I see the little analytics where it's like from like your subscribers and it's the smallest amount. Like I think I had
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
video with like 30,000 views and like 200 were from my subscribers. I'm like, what is this? Like
Yeah.
just like, and it's the new system of YouTube because I don't even know how many people like are still on that account or
Right.
it's frustrating because then you're like, well, I have like, I'm growing subs, like, but like some of my videos aren't doing well. And I get it, like when you're reacting to a show, like if it's a show no one really cares to watch your reaction to. That's kind of the
Right.
thing when you're doing so many different genres is like you have to think like, okay, not everyone is going to want to watch this with you type of thing.
Right.
Like, so I guess that too, compared to like channels that just are like all general, like talking about anime, or if they're like all Dragon Ball Z channels, like obviously I feel like your subs will reflect your views too, because
Right.
they want to see Dragon Ball Z, or like if
Right.
you're a One Piece channel. But when you're doing like
Right.
everything, like it gets a
Yeah, it's
little.
tough.
But I think thinking about it from that point of view, like at least helps me feel like, okay, you know what? Like I understand why this video is not doing as good as that one. like like if I do a
Mm.
One Piece video, like if I post anything One Piece, I feel like it will do good because I feel like most of my subscribers are One Piece fans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I know when like sometimes I do different series, like it takes a bit. Like I think with Jujutsu Kaisen when I started that, I'm like it's a popular show, but I wasn't getting like a lot of views on it, so I'm like, hmm. like is there something wrong with me? Like you have that feeling too. But
Yeah.
then I feel like something happens, and I don't know if it's because I found someone clipped my like reaction from Jujutsu Kaisen the recent season, and it got like 6 million views on TikTok. They didn't tag me at all, and I'm like, what?
Wow.
I kind of like I'm like, okay, like wow, that's amazing, but also like why didn't I like post that, you know? Like I
Right.
hate when I see videos like people take from me and like they'll just blow up somewhere else, but they don't
Mm.
even like tag me. But I think like the comments, some might say like, "Oh, that's Jamie," but like
Right.
in my head, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like, why didn't I do
Mm.
that? TikTok is kind of something I like tried, but I don't. To me, I feel like it's not that helpful for growing.
I don't think it is either. Maybe it's because I don't really care for the platform, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's cool, but I don't feel like people build connections with people on TikTok. I don't feel like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
it because it's just so fleeting.
Hmm.
So maybe unless your content there, you start your content there and you extend that content on YouTube. But I think going from YouTube to TikTok and then trying to get people to come back to YouTube, I don't know if it
Yeah.
actually works in that way, you know?
Yeah, and I like do try it out sometimes. Like I'll post like a YouTube short and a TikTok to see like, and I think one YouTube short I had got like 5,000 views or something, whatever. And I posted on TikTok, it got 300,000 views. But it's like, it doesn't really
Wow.
get you followers. Like, I feel like if you want that,
Right.
like, views, like, oh, look at those views, man. But
Right.
it doesn't, to
It's
me,
like a
I feel
vanity
like you
metric.
can, yeah. And I feel like I see accounts on TikTok, like, some have like a million, like, followers on TikTok, but like on YouTube, it's so little. Because I
Mm.
feel like when you get that TikTok audience, they want to stay on TikTok. And I don't want to
Yeah.
like grow my TikTok because I think I've gotten like a million views on TikTok and it was like 10 cents. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not worth it. And like, yeah, and I feel like I never see like a surge in people like coming over to my YouTube. And like
Mm.
I'm just trying to figure out like the YouTube short thing because I'm torn because I heard that it can almost hurt your channel if you're doing long form and short form because you'll gain subs on your short form, but then the less like you'll have more subs and less people will go to your long form content. It would like hurt your channel in that way.
Mm.
I'm not like good on YouTube stats or anything, so I'm trying to like figure it out, but because like shorts you can get a lot of exposure and views, but then some people might just want to see your shorts, you know? So
Yeah, it's such a tricky space. It's forever going to change. You know, it's never going to stay the same because they don't want you to. YouTube doesn't want you to game the system, so they're gonna always change algorithms and stuff like that, and add new features and things like that. So that's always going to happen. But I think if you can stick with your content that you're doing and try to evolve with whatever is happening on the platform, you should be okay. Because I'm
mhm.
at least for me anyways, like you have like I have these spikes. So I
Yeah,
have these
yeah.
moments of like crazy growth and then my channel plateaus. And then it'll
Hmm.
do this and then it does this. And it just depends, I think. At least for me. I know some channels just don't die. They just keep going and going like and
I
great.
know.
I'm happy for those people that can do that. But I've kind of settled on all right, well, I know that this isn't my end all be all thing in terms of my reaction stuff.
Yeah.
There's other things that I want to do creatively and other things that I'm working on. So I'll let this do whatever it does and be okay with whatever it does as long as I'm happy with creating it, and then focus on, like you were saying, like trying to do other stuff that
Yeah.
that can go a different route, so you're not like having to just depend on this if you need to make an income type of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it just having that is also the fear of there's always like new stuff coming out though for reactions, because people thought that they would like die out, like reaction channels, like when big series
Right.
would end. There's always like there's it's almost too much where it's like to keep up with it,
Yeah.
but like in my head, I don't know, I feel like one day you could just like have people not interested, and
Yeah.
like that's scary because then it's like, what do you do if you've only ever done reactions and like people are, they just don't care anymore? They're like leaving your channel. Because I feel like there's so
Mm.
many reactions now that it's a lot, that I feel like it is affecting like views and everything. Because I feel like back then it was easier to get more views on reactions because there were not so many. But now there's like a
Yeah.
show has like 50 plus, no, probably even more, like 100 plus like other like channels that do like the same amount as you, like same shows and like that competition. So I feel like it's making yourself unique too, is kind of,
Yeah.
because I was last year I was kind of just like doing my usual thing, and I'm like, I feel like I need to change it or change something, because I feel like if you're just
Mm.
always doing the same thing, you're slowly going to like, people are slowly going to be like, okay, I'm bored, move on.
Yeah.
So I guess keeping that mindset and just trying new things, hopefully. Maybe I'll start with reviews though. I would do theories for One Piece, but there's manga, and I know that like if I do a
Someone's gonna
theory video,
spoil
like,
you. Somebody's gonna spoil
yeah,
you.
but like, I mean, I guess like in a reaction video, people would be okay, but an entire review, like an entire like theory, if it's already been like exposed in the manga, then it's like your video is useless, you know? Like,
Yeah.
unless I was a manga reader and like I had a theory of
Yeah.
something that didn't exist already. So that's kind of sad. Yeah, I guess you can't
Yeah.
really do that with anime though, because unless it's a show that doesn't have a manga, I mean, you're always going to be behind what the
Yeah.
manga is doing. So,
Yeah.
like,
Okay, so before we wrap, I've been asking this question. I think it's an interesting one. So, out of everything you've seen, right? What character do you think you align with the most, with like who you are, or who you aspire to be?
hmm. I had a thought, but I'm like maybe not with a certain character. Um, wow, that's a tough question.
Mm.
Who I aspire to be. So is it like, okay, so a character I relate to, or
Yeah, like who's one that you're like, man, that's kind of like me. Like, obviously, you're not a pirate if it's somebody from One Piece, but like them as like, you know, like their personality or like their outlook on things. Or if not, is there a person or a character that you aspire to be like?
I think a character that okay, going just removing the fan servicey part of this character, I really feel
Yeah.
like I can relate to like Lucy from Fairy Tale. She was
Okay.
always a character that I really loved just because she's a very compassionate person. But like
Mm.
whenever I say her name, I just think of like all of the fan service that Fairy Tale just puts her through, and I'm like,
I've
not
never
just
seen it, but I'm gonna
excluding.
take your
Oh
word for it.
no, yeah, no, they put her in the most like interesting situations, but
Okay.
I guess like personality wise, I feel like I can relate to her. A character that
Hmm.
like I kind of aspire to be. I feel like Nobara from Jujutsu Kaisen. I really loved her
Mm.
character. I loved her
Mm.
like attitude, and she was such like a badass character that like
Mm.
that's like ideally who I would want to be like her. But she's also
Mm.
like someone that was caring too. But
Yeah.
she was another character that I guess I would probably relate more to her than Lucy. But I just like the really strong, like, female characters in anime. And I feel like shonen, you do get those. Like, One Piece has good ones. Like, I love Nami,
Yeah.
Robin. Um, but, like, sometimes it's like, I feel like Naruto at least. Sorry, Sakura
Oh yeah.
fans, but she's like a character. Like, as a kid, I liked her character. But
Mm.
yeah, no, definitely would not relate to her at all. But yeah, I think I'd do Nobara from Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like there's a better answer for this, and I just can't think of one.
It's definitely a hot seat question for sure.
Yeah, I'm like going through. I'm like, there definitely have been characters where I'm like, I really like relate to them on an emotional level, and I'm trying to just go down my box. I just go to shonen anime, or maybe Jujutsu Kaisen because that's the most recent thing I watched.
The most recent?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would go with her. I feel like
Okay.
that's a cop out. If I think of something in the next 2 seconds, I'll.
I mean, I wouldn't call it.
Damn.
I wouldn't
I
call it a
do
cop
like her
out. I mean,
character though.
yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like for me, we watch a lot. Like we watch a lot, and we have to like be present in watching it. It's not like, and I think sometimes viewers don't know the difference in like casually watching a show and relaxing and watching it as opposed to needing to be present for a camera and watch, and like it's a lot to do. So it's almost like you're really focusing really on the shows that are the most recent in your memory.
Yeah. Okay, I guess this one. I feel like I relate a little more. Marin from My Dress Up
Okay.
Darling. Yeah, I definitely think I do
Okay.
with her more, especially because she's like her dream is to become a cosplayer. And I remember watching My Dress Up Darling and I'm like, wow, I can relate to her like so much. Like
Mm.
she just wants to like follow her dreams and like be able to do that. Like obviously I don't have an awesome like cosplay. I don't know if you've ever seen the show, but there's this guy that like makes
Mm-mm.
her costumes for her because she can't make costumes or anything. But that's like the premise of the show. And I feel like as a YouTuber or like someone on social media, like it's easy to relate to that show and that aspect of just like following your dreams and like pushing yourself to do that. So
Mm.
I guess her. I would say her. I can relate to her the most.
Okay. I haven't seen it, but I've heard great things about that
Oh,
show.
it's
I've
a good
actually heard
show.
really good things with it. Yeah, people keep saying that was a lot of people's favorite anime for that year that came out.
Oh yeah. Good animation,
So
good story. So would recommend.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Jamie, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your stories and all of that. And we'll make sure that you figure out what your next thing is and let us know so we can let people go
Yes.
check it out. Very excited about it. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. This was a very fun conversation.